Let's bring in our guest for the day. We've got the man of the hour, Pulse Asia Research President Ronald Holmes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Magandang hapon. Magandang hapon sa
Hi,
inyo.
Professor.
Magandang hapon.
Hi, Ronald.
Hindi ko alam kung bakit man of the hour eh.
Nakahinga ka na?
Man in the hot seat na lang.
Man in the hot seat na lang. Nakahinga.
Dahil ang surveys daw kasi sa moment eh. So,
Okay lang na akong nasa hot seat pero kung maaari hindi pupunahin yung scientificong metodolohiya na pagkuha ng datos na tinatawag nating survey. Kasi iba yun eh. In the social sciences, surveys do have a value. Of course, to find out essentially what transpired that brought about the changes in terms of electoral preference. I think it's a sweeping statement to say that surveys are problematic at this point.
Yes, sir. Sir. But I'm certain, I'm sure I'm pretty sure that all the major survey firms are taking a second look at how they can improve the way things are done scientifically for future surveys. Considering what we saw dun sa results no Monday versus yung mga survey results. Okay, sir, I'm sure you've already done your look back. And what can you see so far?
Well, hindi pa kompleto, Ed, no? Even in the past, in prior elections, every time that we conduct surveys, in 2022, in 2019, we always have to reflect in terms of our experience during that election. For example, one of the things that I just found out more recently when I look back in terms of our pre-election surveys, the last survey that we did, which was publicized, was in April 2024. It's the farthest of our pre-election survey to election day, because in 2022 and in 2019, we did it just a few days before the election. So ibig sabihin, kung may variance, at least na-capture mo yung days prior to the election. Mas malapit. Hindi ibig sabihin na mas pareho nung resulta kasi meron pang ilang araw na natitira. So, yun, maaaring pag-aralan. Ang isa pang tinitignan namin ngayon ay pag tinignan natin yung mga boto ng mga nanalong kandidato, ano bang proportion ng boto nila sa total na bumoto? Kasi lumalabas, at least batay doon sa na pinadala sa akin ng isang kaibigan, kilala ni Tocayo to, siguro si Maki Blanco, napakababa ng share ng mga nasa 2 to 12 to the total votes cast compared to, let's say, prior elections. Ang ibig sabihin nito, yung number 12, parang wala pa sa 25% yung share niya. When in the past, it was more than, let's say, 27 or even 30%. It means that the fill-up rate is actually low. But we have to look at that. Ang sabi ko nga, pag-aralan, at kung merong kinakailangang pagbabago, maging sa metodolohiya, ay dapat baguhin.
Ano ba to kayo yung survey na naranasan nyo na pinakamalaki yung variance?
Wala naman kasi kunyari merong nagbabanggit na noong 2007 hindi namin hagip si Senator Trillanes na mananalo. Actually, hindi totoo yun kasi may exit poll noong 2007 na ginawa kami na pumasok si Sunny Trillanes. So sa akin, sa survey, mali kung gagawa ka ng exit poll at kakalabasan ng exit poll mo ay iba nung sa actual na resulta. Kasi yung exit poll, ang kinakausap mo dyan ay bumoto na eh. Pero para sabihin natin na mali yung survey na ginawa, let's say a month or two before, di ba madalas natin binabanggit na snapshot yung survey? It's at the point in time. And if it's at a point in time, that means it can change later. Now, what we need to find out is what brought about the difference between a survey done 3 weeks before the election and the actual results. And that will take a little bit more time kasi yung turnout hindi pa official ngayon eh. We don't know that. We have to crunch numbers in terms of our previous surveys, but definitely yung binabanggit na methodological improvements, we have always looked at that, no? Like nabanggit yung hindi ba namin nakukover yung Gen Z at saka yung millennials. Ang kailangan ng metodolohiya dyan ng sampling is stratification eh. Stratified sampling. Pag nag-stratified sampling ka, medyo meron ding errors dyan na makikita ka. And that was the reason why in the United Kingdom, the survey firms were mistaken in terms of their prediction because it's hard to stratify when you don't know what the distribution of the strata is. Right? Kasi parang nagkukota ka na yan eh. So, those are things that can be done, but we have to study very carefully kasi kahit yung voter turnout the COMELEC does not have data that's age disaggregated.
Pero Tokayo,
Professor, ang sabi,
association yung mga survey firms. Para exchange note, meron mga association or organization, yung survey firms, para mag-assess sila collectively kesa sa iba-iba yung paliwanag. No? Kasi iba-iba yung paliwanag na in a way are hurting the entire community.
Yeah, we're members of associations. We're members of the Philippine Social Science Council, which is the umbrella organization of all social science organizations in the Philippines. Miyembro kami ng Marketing and Opinion Research Society of the Philippines. Member rin kami pareho ng SWS, ng World Association of Public Opinion Research. So those are the organizations that we belong to that can actually look into what we're doing and can be tapped to look into essentially what the survey firms are doing. And if need be, then we will, in the past, nung merong issue about exit polls, I remember there was an independent group that looked into it, an independent academic group, kung ano yung variance, kung bakit hindi iba yung resulta sa ilang lugar when in that exit poll. I think that was the 2004 elections.
Professor, sabi ng PPCRD, yung turnout is over 80%, 80 point something percent. Ang pinag-uusapan lang naman ngayon kasi usually malaki yung variance sa sa bottom 6 lang naman ng Senate race Kaya lang ngayon apektado yung yung top 6 pati yung number 2 very important na wala sa Magic 12 bigla naging number 2, wala sa Magic 12 bigla naging number 5, number 6. Kaya ganon. Kanina nabanggit na rin namin na kung nagtatanong ba kayo sa COMELEC kung ano yung siguro yung age range ng demographic kasi yun na nga merong study na 60% Gen Z and millennial yung botante. Ang nagtatanungan kami, hindi ba dapat mas malaki yung representation on sa sampling ninyo? Kaya bang gawin yun?
Yun nga yung sinasabi kong stratified sampling, Abby.
Yeah.
Mahirap ba yun?
Para gawin mo yun, una, mas mahirap. Pangalawa, meron din mga posibleng error dyan. Yan yung sinasabi ko nangyari sa United Kingdom. Alam mo, datos ng COMELEC na yung proportion ng 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 40, 35 to 44, which are from the Gen Z to the millennials.
Yes.
But when we do the sampling, ang random sampling namin ay multi-stage. Hindi ginagamit yung age, ang ginagamit lang ay sex kasi 50-50 naman ang male and female. So now, do we have to do stratified sampling later? And what will be the difficulty and the possible errors and the weighting procedure that we should use there? Very technical na yun. We have looked into it and we will look into it again. But if you ask survey specialists, meron talagang issues dyan. And you have to weigh them very carefully. Ang isa pang tanong dyan, kasi may nagre-raise did the Gen Z go for a more progressive candidates? Ang sa akin, it's important and I would rather ask the COMELEC, may data ba sila ng ilan sa by age ang bumoto? Ang problema, I think I've asked that many times on the COMELEC in the past years. Wala May data privacy issues kasi. I'm sure that the data is there. But the ballot doesn't indicate anong sex, anong age mo So it would be very hard for us unless we do, as Ronald pointed out earlier, an exit poll. Doon malalaman ilan ang bumoto na Iglesia ni Cristo, ilan ang bumoto na, let's say, Katoliko, na mga Cebuano, and mga kabataan.
Meron pang speculative reports, hindi lang dito sa atin, but in the US and in the UK, after Brexit, na nagiging parang trend daw ngayon na nagsisinungaling mga tao sa mga pollsters. Ayaw magsabi, lalo na kung controversial issues, ayaw nilang sabihin. Have you looked into that? Meron bang basis yung mga report na yan?
Yeah, may basis yan. Kaya ang methodology, pag ang issue ay sensitive, kunyari, meron kami mga studies in the past surveys that we look into vote buying. Ang ginagamit mo method dyan ay sealed envelope. May mga survey na tumitingin sa domestic violence. Sealed envelope, ibig sabihin, bibigay mo doon sa respondent mo yung katanungan at yung questionnaire at sabihin mo na pagkatapos yung sagutan, ilagay nyo sa envelope. Kasi wala namang amin na binubugbog ka sa bahay Dito sa survey, pre-electoral survey na ginawa namin from April, balota ang ginagamit. Bibigay yung balota at pagkatapos dyan, pumunta ka sa kahit sa lugar ng bahay mo at pag natapos ka na, bumalik ka sa amin at nakaselyado na yung envelope. So in that sense, there's confidentiality in terms of the response. Right? So yun, if it's sensitive. Tapos may nakita rin kami, well, it's an option of the respondent, na balik yung balot at sabihin na ayaw ko i-fill up yan. And we do have respondents like that, no, na nagre-refuse na i-fill up man lang yung balot kahit na confidential siya. So, hindi, sa pagtingin ko, given that method, na-erase mo yung apprehension na maaring matukoy siya, no? Dahil hindi naman binubuksan yung envelope sa harap niya eh. Ang instruction namin sa interviewers ay buksan yan pagbalik nyo doon sa opisina.
Ronald, I understand what you're saying about surveys being a snapshot of a moment in time, and of course it can change, pero ang issue kasi this time around is medyo malaki-laki yung discrepancy, no? There are many upsets if we just go by the survey versus the result. Ang laki po ng differences. And I understand as well what you were saying about the low voter turnout and how it could increase the variances. Pero I wonder if, as you do your self-reflection, I wonder if there's room there to try to capture more of yung mga hard votes versus the soft votes. Not just ask people, okay, kilala mo ba tong kandidato na to and will you vote for them? But more along the lines of, will you vote for this candidate come what may, versus, will you not vote for this candidate, whatever they say, right? Kasi yun makikita natin how much of a factor yung campaign strategies can really play into it versus what the perception is already on the ground.
Yeah, Regina, meron namang basis sa surveys, meron akong magagamit na masasabi kung ano yung fairness ng kanilang boto. Kasi, for example, tinanong namin, magbabago pa ba ang bilang ng inyong binoto? And normally, you ask that for people because in March, we still were doing the non-ballot method. So, alam namin kung ilan yung binoto, no? So, tinatanong sila, magbabago pa ba? Karamihan sa kanila nagsabing magbabago pa at karamihan nagsasabi na tatadami yung binoboto nila. Mahirap yung malaman kung gaano ka pirme o lambot yung boto ng isang kandidato kasi 64 tong tumatakbo. Kung presidential to, siguro madali. But with 66, the right terms of the response will be too much. So that's the only question that we have. For example, in our surveys, the last survey would be, when will you firm up your decision on who to vote for? And those are things like, for example, the question there, the choices there would be on election day, the day before election, the week before election, etc., etc. So in that sense, we know and we can cross-tabulate that some of the voters are actually not so firm with regard to their voting decision if meant day on election day. Now, that's one thing that we will look at in this self-reflection, and we've done it before. But you really go into that detail, no? Now, we don't report that out because that's internal to us. Of course, it's an important thing. Now, another point I should raise is, napapa-English tuloy ako eh.
Si Professor.
Ang isa pang punto pwede nating tignan, ano yung share ng boto ng isang kandidato sa total na bumoto nung election day. Kasi, kunyari, sabihin ko na lang, no? Si Kiko Pangilinan in our last survey had, 20%? Si Bam Aquino, I think, had about 27%. Ano ang share niya dun sa actual votes nung election day? Gaano kalaki yung diferensya? Kasi pag binase mo lang sa rangko, hindi masyadong tugma yun eh. You look at the base, which is the preference. The preference established prior to the election and the vote that is the share of the vote on election day. Now, we have to wait until the COMELEC comes up with the final official count before we do that.
Pero at this point, Professor, may naiisip na ba kayo na pwedeng pagbabago na you will most likely implement sa mga susunod na pre-election surveys which will be about 2027 na mag-umpisa na yan.
Well, some firms have already started on the presidential even as early as last
Oo
year.
nga.
But we will look into it. I cannot say na may mga pagbabago, but definitely kung ang batay na rin sa kakalabasan ng aming internal na pag-aaral, definitely there will be improvements, no? Because every time we do the survey, even the questions itself, we try to change it to make it a better measure of let's say yung firmness ng kanilang voting decision or the basis of their decision.
Pero linawin ko lang Professor, sinabi niyo yung undervoting might have affected the results dun sa bottom, yung Senate race.
Yeah, the fill-up rate would
Yes.
definitely have kasi, itong initial data that I got from a friend that I mentioned, for example, if this is based on the unofficial results, no? Si Bong,
Yes.
47% of the total votes, yung share of the total votes cast. That's the number one candidate. In 2022, 48% si Robin Padilla. In 2019, 53% si Cynthia Villar. But if you go down to the second place, si Bam has 37%. Noong 2022, 44% yung second place. So pag tingnan mo lang, bumaba na yung share ng second place. No? What explains it? So those are the things that we really have to zero in. And then we have to look down the line. Kasi anong bumaba? Hindi lang yung ranko, ang bumaba yung porsyento na nagsusuporta sa kandidato. So si former Senator Kiko Pangilinan went from, I listened to his press briefing and his statements, he went from 17th to 5th place, no? Yun ang rank-wise, it's hard to explain. But let's look at the preference that he had in their own internal survey, which they say happened a few days before the election, and the share of Kiko Pangilinan to the total votes cast. Kung hindi malaki variance, then it's plausible. Pero kung malaki yan, if that's 15 points, then we need to look for an explanation for it. Yung rank is not the only measure of, let's say, comparing a pre-election preference survey to the actual results. We should look at the pre-election preference and the share of a specific candidate to the total votes cast.
Sir, if an area votes overwhelmingly for a candidate or a group of candidates, would that in any way skew the results versus the survey results conducted earlier? I mean, for example, Mindanao. If Mindanao comes out and votes overwhelmingly for the Duterte camp, would that change things?
Well, maaari, pero kasi Mindanao, 24%.
Yes, sir.
And then, ang question dito, hindi pa natin alam, turnout by region. Nung kamakailan nga, nag-post ako sa Facebook na ang turnout, pinamababang turnout, NCR Tumaas ba turnout sa NCR? Kasi ang example, when I look at the result, ang masayang result dyan, ang akbayan, kapag mahal mo, akbayan mo, at so many votes in NCR. Now, is this a sign to me, because I'm a martial law baby, is this a sign that NCR has become oppositional? But I also see in NCR votes for Duterte youth. So, ibig sabihin ng NCR split. Oppositional, meron dalawang opposition. Progressive opposition, and again, the opposition coming from the Duterte camp. But we need to drill down on the data, and it's not too easy to do it. It will require some time, but that's one thing that we have to look at.
Yung nga sir, kasi Mindanao nga is 24%, pero Luzon is what, 50-something percent.
Luzon is 57%.
57%. It's so big, pero nga, at the same time, Luzon, they're all over the place. You have so many, for example, you have Bongo, I think is number one sa Ilocos area, and I think also Metro Manila. Or is it BAM? But anyway, but you know what I mean? Watak-watak, hati-hati versus, for example, 24% na medyo solid.
Tapos napansin ko, nung sinisilip ko yung mga datos namin nung huling mga survey, ang baba ng fill-up rate ng Region 1. Ilan?
Yung point mo, sir, about don't just look at the rankings, but look at the share of a specific candidate to the total votes cast. Does that explain what happened to Ben Tulfo then? Because, I mean,
Yeah.
at some point in the pre-election survey, baliktad yung nangyari sa kanya, no? At some point in the pre-election survey, he was at number 2. Erwin was number 1. Tapos, in the end, he fell down to 13. So,
And then,
mataas-taas din yung share of...
Yeah, pero si Ben Tulfo, in our own survey, I don't know about the other surveys, in 3 consecutive surveys, he was going down by 6-7 percentage points. So, ibig sabihin, ang trajectory niya pababa. So, whether the actual results will show that he actually slid further. But from February to March and April, he had consistent decline, which is
Right.
beyond the margin of error from survey to survey. The same can be said for Willie Rebillame. The same can be said for, let's say, Abby Binay, although marginal lang yung from March to April niya. So, ang tanong dyan, bakit sila bumaba from the last survey to the actual result? This time, I'm wearing the hat of a political scientist. What were the events 3 weeks before the elections that really mattered and shifted voter preference?
Actually, sabi niya, Professor, magkakaroon ng avalanche ng machinery, no? Government machinery na which could bump up actually the administration candidates.
Which did
Pero
not
hindi
work.
nangyari.
No.
Hindi nangyari siya. Ano kaya nangyari? Anyari. Yun ang
Alam mo,
tinatanong ng mga tao.
I think Sen. Ronald has a point to raise.
Ronald, ano nangyari?
Nabanggit mo, Tokayo, yung stratification kanila. Merong, hindi naman scientific, pero medyo indicative. In most surveys for the last 3 months, Akbayan ay wala naman sa top. Pero sa mga mock elections sa schools, no, napuntahan ko at nabalitaan ko for the past 3 months, lagi silang number 1, number 2 sa mock surveys, mock election sa mga universities. Kaya may kaunti silang indicative na yung Gen Z ay malaki yung tulong nila. Paano malalaman ng ganyang klaseng stratification? Anong mga framework at saka instruments yung pwedeng gamitin? Dahil generally, hindi sila lumalabas sa surveys na mataas. Pero sa schools, laging mataas, number 1 or number 2. Kaya may kaunti silang indication na sinuportahan sila ng mythical urban legend na Gen Z voters.
Yeah, maaaring sabihin yan, no? But Tokayo, nasabi nila ito pag tingnan mo yung Gen Z, hindi naman siya monolithic group Nakakati siya. May mga kabataan na progresibo, may mga kabataan na konserbatibo. Yung mga sa ibang pamantasan, maaaring yan yung mga progresibo. Meron silang mga teacher na militante. Pero yung sa ibang pamantasan, maaaring hindi May maaaring konserbatibo nandun So, it really depends. But again, to capture that, you have to do a random survey of all students. Right? The last random survey I know of the youth was done by a civil society organization, Youth-Led PH. They did it in 2021. But they did not really focus on electoral preference. Hindi na lang nila kung anong political engagement. Kanina pinag-usapan yun ng kabataan. So you have to do that in order to establish ano ba yung predilection ng kabataan. Lalong-lalo na kung boto pag-uusapan.
Okay. We'll leave that there for now. We'll have you back, Professor, pag nakapag-assess na tayo as to what happened this election.
Pupunta muna ako sa Roma, magre-reflect muna rin ako.
Magkasama kayo ni,
Kasamahan mo si Ronald. Kasama ka ni Ronald.
Bantay mo si Ronald Bauxo sa magpunta yan.
Thank you for joining Storycon Pulse Asia Research President Ronald Holmes.
Thank you, sir.
Salamat.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Kawayo.